I will admit that I had a total nerdgasm as soon as I heard that Persona 3 would be going portable. I've beaten the game at least 3 times trying to max out as many social links as I could. I even went ahead and purchased Persona 3 Fest, even though I already owned the original. Now why, you ask, would I be excited about a portable version of a game that I have played to death? Because they've added a female side to the game! Now before you think I'm some kind of pervert, you have to understand that more content in one of the greatest JRPGs of recent note is a good thing.
Hi, how are you? I'm always with you.
Let's get right into it, shall we? Now if you've ever played Persona 3 before, you'll want to know what has changed. The most noticeable differences for fans of the original will be the dissection of most of the cinematics, and the fact that you can no longer walk around freely in the game. Movement is now tied to an isometric view with selectable sprites on screen, so instead of actually seeing your character, you will instead see a round ball that you can use to talk to people throughout the game. Now I know what you're thinking, that's a pretty big omission from the game, but in reality it actually works pretty well for the portable version. Things go a bit quicker as a lot of the improvements for getting around town that were added in Persona 4 are included here. So you can bring up the town menu with square and navigate each area with the click of the D-pad. This goes along well with the fact that the reticle moves quickly across the screen, so it is much easier to go from place to place in the portable version of the game. It also makes the dialogue go faster. Instead of seeing characters animating on the screen in a lot of familiar sequences of the game, you'll instead instantly see the faces of the characters and the dialogue pop up instead. It is actually a lot more in your face this time around, with characters speaking directly to you through the screen. While I do prefer to actually walk around with my character in the original Persona 3, the portable method adds an appeal all of its own. The most major change to the game though would have to be the inclusion of the female character. Seeing as I'm someone that has beaten the original, this would have still been a purchase for me, but probably not an immediate one. While I was skeptical at playing a female in the game with dating simulation elements, I was more excited that I was given a reason to play one of my favorite RPGs again. The added female portion of the game comes with a lot of different dialogue choices and story options. Yes, Junpei will still call you man and dude every 5 seconds, but that's his style. When it comes to everyone else in the game, there will be no way that you don't know that you're playing as a girl. There are some major dialogue changes here for the female character.
Whether one is a man or a woman doesn't factor into it. The responsibility falls to those who have the gift. And let me add, if you ever say or do anything to condescend to her because she's a woman. One of the more admirable additions are the skill cards that players receive through various methods. Using these cards will apply magical bonuses to Persona that wouldn't normally be able to earn them, which is excellent when you use them at the Naganaki Shrine to exchange for 2 more. Other notable changes are the addition of a bulletin board for searching missing people. That and the part-time job system from Persona 4 makes its way into Persona 3. You will also hear different music when exploring the city as the female version of the main character. This really increases the content in the game, and these are mostly the changes outside of the dungeons.
We're also going to appoint a leader to make any necessary decisions.
For real? One of us? Oh, me, pick me.
Persona 3 utilizes a combination of 2 different types of gameplay styles. At night you can run around through a series of randomly generated dungeons. You can control your character with the analog stick or D-pad and press the X button to initiate combat with enemies you find. The triangle button calls up your basic character selection screen. Here you can equip your characters, use skills, check quests, and social links. The square button is used to give orders to your party so you can make them split up and search for items or defeat enemies. This helps a lot if you have them properly equipped, since defeating enemies alone yields more experience for them and you. For the most part, nothing has really changed here from the console version. You ascend stairs defeating monsters so that you can level up to fight the boss at the end of the month. After defeating the boss, you pretty much repeat these actions until you reach the end of the game. There are some extra things that can be done inside of dungeons, mainly the request given to you by Elizabeth from the Velvet Room. No, that isn't the name of a strip joint. It's a place I'll go into further detail about later. The major change that I saw for the dungeon portion was the inclusion of additional experience in certain areas. At times you'll stumble into a dungeon and your character dialogue will come up stating that something feels different. This pretty much opens up grind points where you gain double experience for killing all the monsters in the area. I thought this was a pretty cool addition to the game because grinding can suck the air out of RPGs. Also, for a price, you can choose to heal your party at the entrance to Tartarus for a fee. Let's move on to the actual combat sections in the game, which have adopted the style of Persona 4. By that I mean that now players can initiate cooperative attacks on a knockdown, so you can use this attack against other monsters to incapacitate them, which will finally trigger an all-out attack with the whole group. The most major change though is that your main character is stuck with one weapon type. You no longer have the option of using different weapons for the main character. You're stuck with either the sword for the male or the naginata for the female. How about we get to the second part of the game, and personally what makes the Persona game so interesting to me. By that I mean the social links aspect of the game. I can't tell you how much time I've invested in trying to max out social links. I used to reset this game constantly on the original if I made the wrong dialogue choices. That's because most of the social link stories actually make it seem like you're having an impact on someone's life. You get close to them and befriend them, and things unfold like a TV drama. The stories are really interesting for the most part, and that's not mentioning the dating portions. But social links aren't just some way to fill time in the game. The higher the link of a friend, the higher the arcana level to create more powerful persona. Now let's get back into the Velvet Room that I spoke about before. It's still not a strip club, but here you can choose to create new persona types from cards you collect. You can fuse these cards together to create even more powerful persona. At first things start off slow with double fusions, but then you can combine triple to quadruple in the specific rare cards that make some of the most powerful persona types. This can almost be as addicting as the social links aspect, as it's pretty much Persona's version of Pokemon. The Velvet Room can also be used to receive quests from Elizabeth or Theodore. These quests will lead you into dungeons for items or have you looking for people at certain times, or just have you going out on a date with them so they can see the world. These quests can keep you occupied in dungeons for hours, especially on some of the more rare challenges.
This is a tough case, even for Junpei Iori, ace detective.
More like Stupe, ace defective.
Hey, I resent that.
Beyond all the interesting stories you'll see through social links, the main story for Persona 3 is a compelling one. It follows the Seeds group as they try to fight off monsters in a secret time called the Dark Hour. Only people with the ability to use Persona are awake during this time, and they are the only ones who are able to stop the shadows from causing havoc in the town. Yet the only way that seems like an actual possibility of beating them is by traversing through their school when it turns into a dungeon named Tartarus. I'm not going to spoil the story in Persona 3 by saying any more. Instead, I'll talk about the voiceovers for the characters in game, which is by far the most impressive English dub for a JRPG I have witnessed. The cast is highly believable in their roles as angsty teenagers forced to fight monsters. A good amount of my time was spent laughing at well-delivered jokes as opposed to laughing at terrible voices trying to sound serious. This is only amplified by one awesome soundtrack. The music in Persona 3 is the best of the series. There are songs you'll hear multiple times throughout gameplay, but they are so catchy that you never hate them. Instead, you'll be singing along with them. Let me stop myself before I continue to ramble on about Persona 3. This is one of my favorite RPGs of all time, and Persona 3 Portable just adds to the content. What it does take out of the game is easily overlooked, because it adds so much more to an already awesome game. If you have a PSP and you have a taste for RPGs, you should look no further than Persona 3 Portable. With that, Persona 3 Portable receives an A+ from Half-Ass Gaming. Now let's see if they make a Persona 4 Portable or Persona 5 for the PS3.
See, we got in no problem. Man, I'm a genius.
Is that really something to brag about?
So you unlocked it earlier. Très bien.
Oui. No time for compliments. Let's go.
What's the big deal, anyway?
Trey Ben. What is that, French? Lousy seniors and their lousy French.